guys, this is Flag coming at you from the sub-basement of HelixxVR headquarters, and today I have a sneak peek review of the yet-to-be-released VR title, Conquer. Conquer is a VR-only melee-based action combat title brought to you by the developer Wan Studio that is set in an ancient cataclysmic world known as the Kingdom of Yan, where you are a holy warrior endowed with the power of God in order to fight off the evil creatures and defeat the Dark Lord before he consumes the entire world in infinite darkness. It is only you alone, along with the holy power set upon you, who can save the world by succeeding in this quest of conquer. This title is set to be released on Steam by the 21st of February 2018. Conquer is a VR-only title that supports the HTC VIVE, Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality, along with full track touch controller support allowing for standing and full room scale gameplay. In Conquer, you start out in a dark void with just one controller while you await the descent of your holy transporter. Once the transporter stops before you, you bind it to the available controller, and then as the darkness washes away, you enter the training grounds. From here, you are tasked with performing your first teleport with the device and are set to choose one of 3 weapons from the weapons rack, only to notice that you don't really have a choice but to take the massive sword, which happens to be the only weapon currently unlocked. The other weapons will be made available to you once you've defeated the big boss. Once you have taken the sword in hand, you are tested in a short training session which includes breaking stone stacks with a basic swing, learning counterattacks against a golem-like training dummy, and finally, you learn the special power strike that not only slows time, but also transfers your swings at a distance, tearing enemies to shreds in the direction you swing, which kinda reminds me of the old Sega Genesis classic, Strider. Though you are forced to do each of these tasks 3 times in order to make certain you understand the lessons before moving into the battle, the tutorial is quite short and to the point. After training, you are transported to a beautiful dark cavern that at first appears to be uninhabited, but as you move along you are quickly greeted by what could only be described as hellhounds. At first you are met by 3 of these rabid canines, but as soon as you claim victory over the beast, another group even larger than the previous come running around the corner along with a much larger, faster, and more aggressive type of hound. The attack system of the game can seem quite unfair if not broken at the beginning, but as you play you quickly get a grasp on what the system's intended purpose is. The fighting isn't like most sword games in VR where slashing and bashing the enemies with your sword delivers damage with each strike or with varying force. Instead, this title puts very little emphasis on the basic strike, delivering an almost meaningless amount of damage to the enemy. But when you time your strikes in accordance to the enemy starting an attack, the connection is devastating. The counterattack is what everything is based around, and though you will undoubtedly strike the enemy outside that timing, it is still possible to kill them without ever using the counter. Though depending on the enemy type, this can prove to be an extremely tiresome endeavor. As you progress from one wave to the next, you will notice that there is no way to go back to the previous point or advancing to the next without first defeating the wave before you. This can be thought of as a way to contain the battle and keep you from retreating. You either fight or you die. The enemy types vary from location to location, and in some instances, you may be greeted with multiple enemy types ranging from the easier hellhounds to, well, the knife-throwing, Bardiche-wielding demons to earth elemental-like enemies that are almost boss-like in their toughness and in their attack. There is also a puzzle element which adds some flavor to the title. The puzzles aren't extremely hard, but aren't what I'd consider simple either. I personally found myself stuck on one such puzzle for upwards of 10 minutes before the solution hit me. Locomotion in Conquer, as stated earlier, is by teleportation, and it works quite well for what it is. I personally don't care for this type of movement and hope that the developer considers, well, including a combination of smooth locomotion with the teleport, as there are instances where the teleport function is a necessity, such as leaping from one rock to the next. It is easy to see that this title was built around teleportation in the way the levels are designed and the amount of time that went into modeling the device used for movement. But I still feel as if the smooth locomotion can work and has a place here as well, especially when in combat or walking through the caverns. As far as bugs are concerned, I did run into one where I could not use my controllers if I loaded the game while Steam VR was running. I found that each time I loaded it, my controllers would either be shown on the floor while they were actually in my hands, or one controller would be left on the floor as soon as I started a new game, leaving me without the controller that the transport tools depended upon. This left me unable to continue the tutorial and left me quite frustrated until I realized that by starting the game without preloading Steam VR, everything worked as intended. The developer has been notified of this issue and is currently seeking a solution. Other than that, I take issue with some design decisions. The font type chosen by the developer, though pretty and a style that matches the title, is not the easiest thing to read in VR. A standard clean non-serif print style should replace what is there. Also, the sword seems to have a reach of about 6 inches beyond its actual length. This is without using any special abilities. Along with that, while you are unable to do any damage to an enemy by simply just wiggling the sword in place, you can do damage by slightly widening that wiggle to the point of hearing a swoosh sound of the blade. Now, this is a common issue in titles featuring weapon-based melee, and one that I really don't nitpick about, as I don't play in this manner even if I know I can. In my opinion, anyone who does exploit the wiggle damage in such titles is only robbing themselves of the enjoyment and immersion full fast swings bring. The only other issue I see is the lack of being able to choose your dominant hand, as this title assumes that you must be right-handed. For me, this is not an issue, and in reality all you really need to do is switch the controller to your preferred hand. But as for many of us who strap our controllers to our wrists, I can see this being potentially annoying. With that said, I do take into consideration that this title is not yet released, and the issues I stated along with the loading bug will likely be remedied upon full release or shortly thereafter. The graphics in Conquer are quite stunning. The atmosphere, sounds, and visuals are on par with many AAA flat games. This game is extremely well optimized as it runs a solid 90 frames per second on my i5 Devil's Canyon with a GTX 1070, and that's with everything turned up to the max, plus 1.4 times super sampling. As far as price is concerned, I couldn't say, as it won't be released until the 21st of this month. I also haven't been able to successfully beat the first boss in order to say how much further the game goes. But the amount of time it takes to get to the first boss is roughly around 30 to 45 minutes depending on how fast you move along and how long it takes you to solve the puzzles. With that said, I do recommend Conquer, as it is a very polished title even for pre-release. If you like melee combat in VR or titles that force you to move around, well, I think Conquer would make a great addition to your VR library. If you found this title interesting and want to check it out further, I provided a link to it in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you didn't, well, hit that other button. If you want to see more videos like this one, please support us here at HelixxVR and press that subscribe button. It won't cost you a thing and the videos are free too. Also, don't forget to check out our other great videos on YouTube at HelixxVR. It's the channel you're on right now. The other guys work hard to create some really great content, live feeds, and giveaways on a daily basis. For more stuff HelixxVR, check the description below. Until next time, guys, this is Flag, heading back to the basement. See ya.